Hello and welcome to Sunday Storytime. Now this week and next week I'm going to read to you a couple of legend tales. The first one, the one I'm going to do today, was written by a 3-4 class from Llansawel Primary School in Britain Ferry quite a few years ago. And it is called The Howl of the Wolf. On a small island in the middle of the world's largest ocean, a wolf was searching for food. He had left the wreck of the ship which had been his home for the voyage across the sea, but now lay in ruins on the white sandy beach. His hunger could not be avoided any longer. He tried to catch fish as they swam too close to shore, but they were never close enough. The wolf was the only survivor from the ship. There was no sign of the crew that had captured him only 3 days earlier. The sharks that swam in the ocean would have fed well that day. For the 2 days that he had stayed on the shipwreck, the wolf had looked out to the forest that lay at the edge of the beach. The forest appeared to him to be alive. There were sounds he didn't recognize, and the trees seemed to move, not only with the wind, but with something else. Now he was in the forest. He walked carefully, his paws making slow steps, his nose low to the ground. A wolf's strong sense of smell meant that he could recognize food from a long way off, but here in the forest, he could also smell something he had never come across before, and he didn't like it. It smelt like something bad was going to happen, but there was no food near too. He carried on. The wolf had gone about half a mile into the forest when he discovered a shelter, and he knew that there would be food inside. He could still smell something bad in the air, but he hadn't heard or seen anything in the forest. He must have been thinking things, imagining things. There were no birds darting through the trees. There was no other wildlife. The wolf should have realized that something wasn't right, but he didn't. The wolf should have been more careful, but he wasn't. He rushed into the shelter to take the food when, from out of the walls and from behind the rocks, came the most terrifying hissing sound. He spun around frantically to see what was making the noise when he heard it. The deadliest, most evil hiss you could imagine, a hiss that came from hell itself. The wolf bolted for the doorway and out into the forest. He turned his head to look back and saw a huge snake, a king cobra. Its vicious tongue was darting out of its mouth, its teeth as fierce as anything on earth. The wolf fled. He ran and ran while all around him the trees sprang to life with slithering snakes. There must have been hundreds, if not thousands of snakes that chased after the wolf as he sprinted for his life through the forest. A few times he thought he was trapped, but leapt with all his strength up and over the deadly snakes, but they still came after him. As he burst onto the beach, he ran to the safety of the wreck. It was only when he got there that he noticed that the snakes had stopped chasing him. In fact, he couldn't see them anywhere. What the wolf didn't know was that while he rested from the chase, the snakes had begun to surround the wreck and were preparing to strike. The skies were turning dark. There was a storm coming. The wolf would have no chance against the snakes when the storm struck. The wolf had noticed the skies becoming darker and darker as the heavy black clouds rolled in from the sea. He was about to look for shelter in the wreck when a bolt of lightning lit up the sky and was soon followed by a violent crash of thunder. The snakes pounced. The wolf had leapt up at the crack of thunder. He could see that the snakes were attacking. He flew from the ruined ship just in time his paws pounding across the sand as he ran. But as fast as he could go, the snakes were going faster. They would soon catch him. But at that moment, the wolf spotted the hull of an old wooden boat bobbing on the shoreline, the waves splashing against its side. He jumped into the boat, the force of his jump moving the boat from the edge of the beach and into the sea. With his long paws, he paddled as fast as he could, away from the beach and away from the island. The wolf was leaving the island behind. He was moving further out to sea. On the beach he could see the snakes, furious and fierce, hissing out their anger and their frustration that the wolf had got away. When he thought he was safe, the wolf slumped down in the boat, tired, wet from the rain which was lashing down. Suddenly the boat lurched to the left. The wolf jumped up, startled. At the far end of the boat was the king cobra. It was by far the biggest of all the snakes, its huge head arched back, ready to pounce, the body slithering, twisting with venom. The wolf growled back, snarled, bared his teeth. But that didn't stop the huge snake. It pounced. The wolf sprang forward. In a battle that was violent and exhausting, the wolf finally wrapped his jaws around the body of the king cobra. He flung the snake into the sea, where it disappeared forever. The wolf crumpled to the floor of the boat. He had avoided the poisonous bite of the snake, but it hurt nonetheless. It didn't take long for the wolf to fall asleep. Later, he woke with a fright. For a moment, he thought that the snake was back in the boat. The rain had stopped, and now the clouds were breaking up, revealing a glowing full moon. The wolf raised his head, stared at the moon. He looked all around and saw the ocean in all directions. He was going somewhere. He didn't know where. He looked up again at the moon and did something no wolf had ever done before. He howled. It was a howl that was heard across the ocean and has been heard ever since. It was a howl that lasted long into the night. It was the beginning, the first howl of a wolf. And that was your story from Llansawel Primary School, year 3-4 class a few years ago. I hope you'll join me next week for another Sunday Storytime. Until then, bye for now.